Hi, good morning, everyone. There are a few questions for homework. Yes, right. Starting from question number 9. Page 14. Page 14, question 9. The mass is hung from a spring and set into vertical oscillation by displacing the mass 5 centimeters from its equilibrium position. The graph shows how the mass is hung from a spring and set into vertical oscillation by displacing the mass 5 centimeters from its equilibrium position. The graph shows how the acceleration of the mass depends upon the displacement of the mass from the equilibrium position. Sketch a graph on the axis below to show how x depends upon the time. So guys, it has to be a graph like this. Okay. Has to be a graph like this. The sinusoidal graph. Displacement versus time. And the displacement is, the maximum displacement is 5 centimeters. Correct? And then it's a 4 marker, so I believe they're expecting you to mark the time period as well. So you can mark the amplitude to be 5 centimeters and to find the time period. Look at this part. Now, if you take a graph of A versus X, the graph is A versus X here. If you take the graph of A versus X, A equals minus omega square X. So if you take A in the y-axis and X in the x-axis, it's a graph in the form of y equals mx. Okay. So where gradient is equal to minus omega square. So if I find the gradient of this graph by taking maybe this point, the coordinate is minus 5, 8. And here the coordinate is, I'll take 0, 0. Gradient of the graph is 8 minus 0 over minus 5 minus 0, which is minus 1.6. Okay. That is the omega square. So which means the omega square is equal to 1.6. Omega square is equal to 1.6. So that is omega is equal to square root of 1.6. So then to find the time period, t equals 2 pi over omega. That is 2 pi over square root of 1.6. That is 4.97 seconds. 4.97 seconds. I think it's close enough for us to take it as 5 seconds. So I'll take the time period here to be 5 seconds. The time taken for one complete cycle. So here the time has to be 2.5. Here the time has to be 1.25 approximately. It's a 4 marker, so what I feel is they would have allocated definitely marks for the shape. and definitely a mark for the amplitude to show that's 5. And also the remaining marks has to be given for this calculation of time period. So if you just show only this, the time period is 5, that's enough, I guess. Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. The next one. The next one is 13th one. Question 13. A website advertises a baby crib that can be hung from a spring. The crib can be set into vertical oscillation. The instructions for the crib state the crib can support a maximum mass of 15 kilograms. When the crib supports a mass of 15 kilograms, the spring extends by 42.5 centimeters. Show that the stiffness of the spring is about 350 newtons per meter. So guys, if I use F equals Kx for the spring, force equals spring constant into X, stiffness into X. The force that when the mass is 15 kilograms, the weight will be 15 G. 15 into 9.81. That is equal to K into the extension is 42.5 centimeters will be 0.425 meters. So K will be 15 into 9.81 divided by 0.425. That is 346.2. Newtons per meter, which is about 350 newtons per meter. That is the spring constant or the stiffness of the spring. Okay. That's the office. A baby is placed in the crib, and the spring extends to bring the system to equilibrium. The crib is displaced through a small vertical displacement and release. State why the crib will oscillate with simple harmonic motion. 2 marker. So why will it move in a simple harmonic motion? You have to mention its displacement will be directly proportional to the acceleration. Or acceleration will be directly proportional to the displacement, and acceleration and displacement will be in opposite direction. So it will be in simple harmonic motion. So whenever they speak about why it is a simple harmonic or how it is a simple harmonic, you need to speak about these 2 details. Okay. So right. State why the crib will oscillate with simple harmonic motion. The acceleration will be directly proportional to the displacement. Acceleration will be directly proportional to the displacement. And acceleration and displacement will be in opposite directions. Acceleration and displacement will be in opposite directions. So it will be a simple harmonic motion. Like A equals minus omega square x, and then you have to anyway mention this. Okay. Right. The baby has a mass of 7.25 kilograms. Calculate the period of oscillation of the crib. Mass of the crib is 2.55 kilograms. The stiffness of the spring is 350 newtons per meter. So guys, the time period is given by what for a spring? T equals 2 pi square root of m over k, is it? Am I right? So 2 pi square root of, now the mass has to be the mass of the crib plus the baby. which is 2.55 plus 7.25, that is 9.8, is a mass. Over the stiffness of the spring, they have told to take it as 350. So we'll take it 350 itself. Okay. Even though the value calculated is 346.2, since they have given in this part to take the stiffness of the spring as 350, please take that 350. It's the mass, right? So on the spring, the crib and the baby both are there. No? So the mass that is hanging on the spring will be the crib mass plus the baby mass, which is 7.25 plus 2.55, that is 9.8. Okay. That will be 2 pi into square root of 9.8 over 350. That is 1.05 seconds. Okay. Right. Fine. Everyone okay with that? Then the next part, the maximum mass that the spring can support before being damaged is to 25 kilograms. The maximum mass that you can hang on the spring is 25 kilograms, which is roughly about 250 newtons. Correct? Yes, right? Explain why the instructions state that the maximum mass is only 15 kilograms. The instruction had told in this, they have told it's only 15 kilograms. The instructions for the crib state that the crib can support a maximum mass of 15 kilograms. Why? Now, guys, now the spring can support maximum the maximum mass that spring can support before being damaged is 25 kilograms. From the 25 kilogram, if you reduce the mass of the crib, 2.55 kilogram, which is about 22.45 kilogram is remaining, so that we can put into this crib. So a baby of 22.4 kilograms, we can put into this mathematically. Correct? But whoever made this telling only 15 kilograms can be put. Why? Yeah, now this is 250 newtons is the load that the spring can take. If you just keep the baby, if you're not going to move the baby and just keep it as it is, then maybe you can go up to 22 kilograms. Okay, but you are going to oscillate the fellow. No? So when the fellow is going up and down, then the force will increase. When the displacement of the oscillation is increasing, then the acceleration is increasing, then the force will be increasing, then the force experienced by the spring will increase. You get it? So they have allowed that the additional 7.5 kilograms and corresponding 75 newtons to be left out to be on the safe side. Understood? So write about that. When the crib is oscillating, its acceleration will increase. As the displacement increases. And the force on the spring will increase. Full stop. So the maximum permissible mass or the maximum allowable mass cannot be 25 kilogram. It has to be less. Okay. Right. And the next one is the 14th. A mass of 250 grams is hung from a spring as shown. The spring extends by 16.5 centimeters when the mass is added to the spring. The mass is then displaced a further 3.5 centimeters vertically downwards and released. The mass oscillates with simple harmonic motion. State the conditions for a mass to undergo simple harmonic motion. What are the conditions? Acceleration has to be directly proportional to the displacement, and acceleration and displacement should be in opposite directions. Okay. So for the 2 points, you will get the 2 marks. Calculate the maximum kinetic energy of the oscillating mass. Okay. So maximum speed is given by what? V max is given by what? May amplitude into omega, right? A omega, or amplitude is, if I take it as x naught into omega. Correct. So which means I know the x naught is 3.5 centimeters from the equilibrium level. It has been pulled down 3.5 centimeters. We know the x naught. So my plan is now to find the maximum speed. So we are told to find the maximum kinetic energy. We'll find the maximum speed. And with that speed, we will use E equals half mv square. We will get the maximum kinetic energy. Correct? So to find the maximum speed, we are using x naught omega. We know the x naught is 3.5. So that means we have to begin with finding the omega. Right? So to find the omega, I need the t. To find the t, I'm going to use t equals 2 pi square root of m over k. Agreed? So to find the t, I need the k. Okay? So I'll find the k by using f equals kx. If I use f equals kx, they have initially told no. When the mass of 250 grams is hung from the spring, it extends by 16.5 centimeters. I'll use that detail to see what is the k. Okay? So the f is mg, which is 0.25 mass into 9.81. That is the weight hanging on the spring. That is equal to k into the extension is 0.165 in meters. 16.5 centimeters in meters. So the k is going to be 0.25 into 9.81 divided by 0.165, which is 14.86. 14.86 newtons per meter, that is the k. So I'll bring that k and put it here to find the time period. Time period will be 2 pi square root of, what is the mass hanging? 250 grams, which is again 0.25. Over the k is 14.86. So it's going to be 2 pi into square root of 0.815. That is the time period. So the omega is going to be 2 pi over t. So I'm getting 7.71 in radians per second. That is the omega. So the Vmax, coming back to Vmax, that is x naught into omega. X naught is 3.5 centimeters, which is 0.035 in meters, into omega is 7.71. That is going to be 0.269. I'll take 0.270. This is the maximum speed that mass and the spring will be oscillating at. So then finally, to find the maximum kinetic energy, I'll take it as Emax using half mv square. So the half mv square is now half into the mass is 250 grams, 0.25 into 0.27 square, which is 0.0091. Joules. Have you got this answer? Good. Are you all doing unit 4 papers? At least one a week, one paper a week. Yes. Good. Those who are not doing, at least start it now. If you don't start now, very sorry to tell. I mean, most probably it will be, you will fail on it. Okay. Maybe hard to digest, but that's the reality. If you don't want to do it, that's what's going to happen. I mean, if it is hard for you to do papers, at least start preparing your head to expect that result. Okay, just imagine yourself, you're getting the results there and you have failed. I mean, season yourself for that if you can't do papers. Okay, right. Part C, the graph shows how the displacement of the oscillating mass varies over 2 cycles. Okay, add to the graph to show how the kinetic energy of the mass varies over the same time interval. How the kinetic energy varies. That's easy. We know the kinetic energy is maximum where? At the equilibrium point? Yes. When the displacement is 0, kinetic energy is maximum. Am I right? And when the displacement is maximum, kinetic energy is 0. So it will be a graph like this. When the displacement is maximum, kinetic energy is 0. When the displacement is 0, kinetic energy is maximum. Graph like this. Okay. Amplitude of the graph doesn't matter. You can take wherever you want. Okay. What else? What's next? There's another part. Yeah, there's another part. Part D. The mass is submerged in water as shown. The mass is set to oscillate as before. Explain how the water would affect the amplitude of the oscillation of the mass. That we will do a bit later. There's a little bit more theory to be done. What's next?
When the medium is liquid and not gas, then it can transfer vibrations past strengths and therefore amplitude
Increase. It has to decrease. Right. What's the next one? That's it. Right. What are the last subtopic we have done? Right on the next subtopic. Okay. Right. Guys, right on the next subtopic. Free and forced oscillation. Free and forced oscillation. Okay. Because now, if you just take an object which is, and if you just oscillate it the way it wants, I'm not forcing it to oscillate. Okay. This is free oscillation. Okay. This is oscillating the way it wants, depending on its length. Okay. It has a time period. So it's oscillating at the time period it wants, at the frequency it wants. I'm not forcing it to vibrate. But if you take an object and if you give it a certain frequency and if you make it vibrate at that frequency, you connect it to a signal generator, you connect it to something which is vibrating. And if you make it vibrate at that frequency, that you call forced oscillation. Simple. Okay. So now if you take every object, it has its own frequency. You call it its natural frequency. Right? Anything has its own frequency. Now, if I tap this tape, there are so many items on this. Every movement, there is a vibration. Okay? And everything will be vibrating at its own frequency. You might not be able to see the particles vibrating. But it will be vibrating at its natural frequency. But if I keep on, I'm making it to vibrate at the frequency that I'm providing. Okay? That is forced oscillation. Now, let's say you have, you know, these tuning forks, right? Which, yeah, the tuning fork. Now, if you bring a tuning fork and keep it, it has a frequency. It can vibrate particles around it at that frequency. Okay. So when particles are made to vibrate at another frequency, and if the natural frequency of the particle matches with the driving frequency, that frequency you call the driving frequency, then the particles will vibrate with maximum amplitude. Okay. What do you call that? You call that resonance. What do you call that? Resonance. Now, let's say, you know, you can scream and break a glass. Okay, you can scream and break a glass. Yes or no? Have you seen videos like that? Have you? So how does that work? How does that happen? Now, if you take the glass, the material with which it's made, it has a natural frequency. Okay. So now let's say it's, for an example, its natural frequency is about 800 hertz. If you can exactly produce a sound with a larger amplitude at that frequency of 800 hertz, when you give that sound of 800 hertz, these glass particles, their natural frequency is the same as the driving frequency. Those particles will vibrate with maximum amplitude. So that's where the glass splash. Okay. Without a physical contact, you don't have to hit the glass. There's no absolutely physical contact. You just scream, you don't even touch the glass, but it will break.
This is only if the amplitude of the sound wave that you produce is higher than amplitude of glass.
Amplitude.
Yeah, you were talking about amplitude.
No. What I told is if the sound has a high amplitude, it has enough energy to transmit. Okay.
I thought you said higher.
The high enough, the amplitude is high enough so that the energy transmitted is sufficient for it to vibrate. Sometimes otherwise it might vibrate with the maximum amplitude, but it's not sufficient for it to splash. That's what I meant. So anyway, so the concept of resonance is when the natural frequency of an object matches with the driving frequency, that object will oscillate with the maximum amplitude. That is what you call resonance. Okay, right. So coming back to the topic, free and forced oscillations, right under that. When a simple pendulum or a simple harmonic oscillator when a simple pendulum or a simple harmonic oscillator is given an initial displacement, when a simple pendulum or a simple harmonic oscillator is given an initial displacement and if it oscillate on its own, and if it is allowed to oscillate on its own, then it is known as a free oscillation. Then it is known as a free oscillation. Let's start. The frequency at which it will be oscillating, the frequency at which it will be oscillating, the frequency at which it will be oscillating is known as its natural frequency. Is known as its natural frequency. And right below that, separate. When an object is forced to vibrate using an external source, when an object is forced to vibrate using an external source, then it is known as forced oscillation. then it is known as forced oscillation. The frequency of the oscillation will be equal. The frequency of the oscillation will be equal. The frequency of the oscillation will be equal to the frequency of the driving source. Okay, right on the next subtopic. Resonance. 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 When the driving frequency of the source, when the driving frequency of the source is equal to the natural frequency of the object. When the driving frequency of the source is equal to the natural frequency of the object, it will vibrate with maximum amplitude. It will vibrate maximum amplitude. This is known as resonance. Okay, so guys, this is how it will be. Let's say this is the frequency. If you sketch a graph of the amplitude of vibration versus the frequency, the driving frequency. So if you keep on varying the frequency, okay, now the amplitude will be varying in a shape like this. So when the driving frequency matches the natural, this is the natural frequency of the object. When the driving frequency matches the natural frequency, you can see the particle will vibrate with the maximum amplitude. So sketch this one to show how the amplitude of vibration varies with the driving frequency. Okay, right. Right on the next subtopic, damped oscillation. Damped. Mhm. Right, right under that. When there are resistive forces acting on an oscillation, when there are resistive forces acting on an oscillation, when there are resistive forces acting on an oscillation, its amplitude will gradually decrease. Its amplitude will gradually decrease. And it will come to stop. Such an oscillation is known as damped oscillation. Okay, right. So guys, when you were a kid, were you? Did you ever play on the swing? Yeah. Back then, did you know it was a simple harmonic motion? No. At least now, do you know it's a simple harmonic motion? Yes. Right. So guys, now let's say, who pushed you when you were on the swing? Huh? Yourself. So boring. Who pushed you? Ma- How? How can you push yourself?
So if you can raise it down.
From you. Okay. Yeah. It's boring. Now let's say there is someone who is at the back and pushing you, and you swing. Okay. Now guys, now that person now stops pushing you, and you oscillate for some time, and then you eventually come to stop, right? Why?
The friction in the cable.
Yeah. If there were no resistive forces, you will oscillate forever. Okay. If you were given an initial oscillation, and if by any chance, let's say hypothetical situation, there is no air resistance, there is no air particles around you. So there's no air resistance, and there's no absolutely no friction where this chain or the rope is connected to a bar on top. There's no friction, so there's no resistive force there also. And then when you swing it, you can just keep on swinging forever. So why you come? Thank you. Why you come to a stop? Why the amplitude reduces and your oscillation dies off is because of the resistive forces, right? And such an oscillation you call what? Damped oscillation. Damped. There are resistive forces acting. Okay. So depending on the degree of damping, it will be decided how soon your energy is going to be dissipated, how soon your oscillation is going to stop. If there is a lot of resistive forces, if you hear that where this is the rope or the chain is connected, if you hear a kata 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 sound, that means the friction is more, the resistance energy dissipation is more. So you will come to stop immediately, or maybe very soon you will come to stop. But if there is less friction, you will take a longer time. You can enjoy your swing, and gradually the amplitude will reduce little by little. Anyway, this amplitude reducing gradually, you call it what? Damping. Understand? So if it is gradually reducing, step by step, then you call it light damping. That means there is only small amount of resistive forces acting. You call it light damping. Right on the next subtopic, light damping. If the amplitude of the oscillation is having a gradual exponential decay, if the amplitude of the oscillation is having a gradual exponential decay, then it is known as a light damping. A light damping. So guys, in that case, the displacement will vary with time like this. You can see how the maximum displacement, the amplitude is gradually decreasing. It has the amplitude has an exponential decay. Take it on. Right. Okay. Right. The next one, critical damping. Critical damping. Okay. There's now, when resistive forces are acting, the amplitude will reduce gradually. So the more the higher the resistive forces, faster will be the stop. Sooner will be the stop. Correct? No? So if there is the correct amount of resistive forces acting, when the optimum amount of resistive forces are acting on the oscillating object, it will come to stop in the shortest possible time. The shortest possible time that the oscillation can come to stop. So that damping is what you call the critical damping. Right under that. when the optimum amount of resistive forces are acting on an oscillation, when the optimum amount of resistive forces when the optimum amount of resistive forces are acting on an oscillation, it will come to stop. It will come to stop without completing an oscillation. Without completing an oscillation. In the shortest possible time. The shortest possible time. It is known as critical damping. Known as critical damping. So guys, in that case, the displacement will vary with time like this. It won't even complete an oscillation. It'll be brought to zero in a very quick time. Take it down. That's how the graph will be for critical damping. Okay, done? The next one, next subtopic, over damping. Over damping. Right under that. When there are more resistive forces acting, when there are more resistive forces acting, when there are more resistive forces acting, then in critical damping, when there are more resistive forces acting, then in critical damping, come on, then the oscillation will come to a stop. Then the oscillation will come to a stop. Without completing an oscillation, without completing an oscillation, come on, but taking a longer time than critical damping. By taking a longer time than critical damping. So guys, now overdamping means, when it is the critical damping, the correct amount of forces acting so that it will come to stop in the shortest possible time. So overdamp means it's more than critical damp, overly damp. So there the resistive forces acting are more than the critical damping instance. So it will come to a stop without completing an oscillation. But if this is the time taken for critical damping to stop, if this is a graph of critical damping, then the graph of overdamping will be something like this, taking a longer time than critical damping. Okay. So what you see in these door dampers is overdamping. Okay. Once you open the door, even if you want to stop it, close it, you can't just push it. There is a damper. There is the door closer, you call it a damper, which holds the door, that is a damper. So it will come to stop without completing an oscillation, but it will take longer than the critical damping instance. Understood. Take it down.
Why would it take longer? Like the more the force, the better.
No, there's nothing like that. There is an optimum amount of force which will make it stop uh, in the shortest possible time.
So why, like when the force gets higher, then
No. It can reverse it also. It can affect in the other direction.
you only apply it in the first direction.
The oscillation happens in two directions. So when the force is more beyond that optimum point, it can result in the opposite direction. So if it is more than critical damping, it will take long. That's one thing I can tell you is it's theory. Okay, there is evidence available. If you look at fine details, what I told is the reason. Okay, think about it. No, oscillation means it has to go both beyond the hinge.
Because if you add too much force, then the amount of friction is greater.
Now, if it is too, now it's like this. If it is too, now imagine while it oscillating, if it is too windy, it can also oscillate in the opposite direction. So it's something to do with that. If the force goes beyond a certain point, it can lead to the movement in the opposite direction. So anyway, the time taken for the energy dissipation will be long. Done. Take the tute. Guys, page 2, question 2. Give it a try. Right, there's a question 2. The suspension system of a car is set of springs that allows the body of the car to move vertically up and down relative to the wheel. Okay, in a car suspension system is a set of springs. Okay, that allows the body of the car to move vertically up and down relative to the wheels. A car is driven along a long straight road that has a series of speed bumps. Speed bumps are raised parts in a road. Okay, right. At a particular speed of the car, resonance occurs. Resonance occurs. The amplitude of vibration of the car, body on the suspension system becomes much larger. That's what anyway we call resonance. Explain why the amplitude of vibration increases. at a particular speed. So you can say car body has a natural frequency. Okay. So when it is forced to vibrate and at a particular speed, at its natural frequency will be equal to the driving frequency. So the body, the energy transmitted to the body or energy transferred to the body will be maximum. So it will be vibrating at maximum amplitude. So right, the car body has a natural frequency. Car body has a natural frequency. Full stop. So when it is driven at its natural frequency, when it is driven at its natural frequency, the energy transferred to it will be maximum. Energy transferred to it will be maximum, and it will oscillate with maximum amplitude. Part B. When a person of mass 65 kilograms steps into the car, the vertical height of the car above the road decreases by 2.5 centimeters. That means the spring system goes down by 2.5 centimeters. Okay. Resonance occurs when the speed bumps are spaced. 25 meters apart. Calculate the speed of the car is driven along the road. You should consider the car as a mass spring system. Mass of the car, empty car, is 1,300 kilograms. This is very much similar to the earlier question that we did. So I can find by using T equals, what is the time period for a spring system? 2 pi square root of m over k. I can find the time period of the oscillation using this. For that, I need to first find the k. So for that, I will use F equals k. I know when the man enters with 65 kilograms, the compression is 2.5 centimeters. So that means the stiffness, I can find it from here. F is 65 into 9.81 equals k into x is 2.5 over 100.
So I have to consider the mass of the car.
Because the mass of the car is anyway there. This additional 2.5 centimeters is when this 65 kilograms enters, right? Isn't it? When a person of mass 65 kilograms steps into the car, the vertical height of the car above the road decreases by 2 point. That additional 2.5 centimeters compression is for that 65 kilograms, not for the entire weight. So from here, I can find the K.
We get the same answer.
Hold on. $25,506 newtons per meter. How can you get the same answer? Wait. Let's see.
And he also used
For that term. Let's see. So T equals, I'll take the time period, which is 2 pi square root of m over k. So the m is 65 over the K is 25,506. That is going to be no, but here when you find, now you have to take the total mass, right? $1,365, which is 2 pi square root of 1,365 over 25,506, which I am getting 1.45 seconds. This is the time period of oscillation. Okay. The mass of the car is empty car is 1,300 kilograms, and K is 25,506. You get the time period to be 1.45 seconds. Now there are bumps, speed bumps. One is here. The other one is at a distance of 25 meters apart. So if the car is moving at a speed of u is equal to 25 divided by the time taken for an oscillation is 1.45. 25 divided by 1.45, which is 17.2 meters per second. Did you get this answer? This is the speed at which the car will be moving if exactly when the distance is 25 meters apart, if it is getting the resonance is occurring at 25 meters apart.
Also, you can instead convert, you can instead make 1/t as f use v equals f lambda also, right?
What is the lambda?
25.
Yeah. Are you getting 17.2? Any questions? If you have any questions, you can ask. Any questions?
Speed represents the time for one speed of the one speed.
Tell again.
The speed represents the time from one speed of the
T is the time taken for one complete oscillation for this system, spring system. So if that is exactly equal to the time taken between the two bumps, that's where the natural frequency is equal to the driving frequency, right? That's where the resonance happens. Now, this is getting the jerk between the two when it is passing on the bump. The spring system gets that hit when it is passing on the bump. So it is getting the bump, that forced vibration when it is passing on the bump. So the time taken between the two bumps, okay, that time over 1 over that time is the driving frequency. The frequency at which the spring system is forced to vibrate.
So, that one oscillation. So that time you put 1.45.
No, then the spring will take 1.45 to complete an oscillation. So exactly when it is completing that oscillation, if it is getting the next shot, that's where the resonance happens. Now, this is being tapped at a certain frequency. If that frequency is equal to the natural frequency of this, that is what you call resonance. The spring system has a natural frequency. Its time period is what I found, 1.45. per oscillation, it takes natural time period is 1.45 seconds. Whether speed bump or not, this spring system with this man and the car, it has a, if you just oscillate it, it will have a time period of 1.45 seconds. That is its natural frequencies associated time period. So if the bump is also arranged in the inner way, it gives that oscillation 1.45 once in 1.45 seconds. Then the natural frequency of the spring system matches the driving frequency, right? Speed bumps are placed now. Okay, now speed bump, the distance, the time taken between the two speed bumps should be equal to the time period of the spring system. Then only the driving frequency, which is the frequency given by the speed, will be equal to the natural frequency of the spring. Spring is oscillating with a time period of 1.45. Listen to this part carefully. Spring is oscillating with a time period of 1.45 seconds. That is its natural time period. Now, if you go and tap it on it, if you force to vibrate it, once in every 1.2 seconds. Now let's say you tap it, you give it a bump once in 1.2 seconds, whereas the natural time period of the spring is 1.45 seconds. So that means you are disturbing its natural motion, right? That is not resonance. Okay. So what is resonance? When it has a time period of natural time period of 1.45 seconds. If you are also giving it that tap once in 1.45 seconds, that means this you tapping frequency is equal to its natural frequency. That is what you call resonance. Yeah, so if it is happening at 25 meters apart, that means the time taken for the car to move from here to here should be exactly 1.45 seconds. Got it? The natural time period of the spring, the time taken for one complete oscillation, which is 1.45 seconds, that should be the time taken for the car to move from one bump to the other bump. So now this is not about just these two bumps. There are so many bumps placed. There are about 50 bumps placed. They are telling the distance between two bumps. If you read the question, it says a car is driven along a straight road that has a series of speed bumps. There are so many speed bumps. This is not in Sri Lanka. They have placed at exact same distance. So that distance is in such a way, they are telling if you want the distance to be in such a way that resonance happen, they're asking what should be the speed. So the car should travel at a speed in such a way. The distance, the time taken between two adjacent speed bumps is exactly the time period of the oscillation. Correct? Understood? Right. Anyway, the part C is explain how damping reduce the large amplitude of vibration of the car on its suspension. Explain how damping reduces the large. So, right, they're asking about damping. The energy of the car or the kinetic energy of the car is dissipated kinetic energy of the car is dissipated to the surrounding. So its amplitude will decrease. Right, guys, the next one. Question 4. Do the part A and you can take a break. Is it correct or no? What are you getting as the K? Huh? Let's see. Right. So guys, the average T will be 13.65 divided by, 13.65 plus 13.7 divided by 2. That is 13.675, no? So the time period will be 13.675 is the average time taken for 30 oscillations. So the time taken for one oscillation will be 0.4558. Seconds is the time period. So if I use t equals 2 pi square root of m over k and square either sides, t square equals 4 pi square m over k. So k equals 4 pi square m over t square. So that is 4 pi square. What is the m did you take? It has to be 0.11, right? Because the 0.22 is the mass undertaken by two springs, no? Yeah, that is also okay. Otherwise, if you see here, this if I use this equation for one spring, okay? If I use the equation t equals 2 pi root m over k for one spring, the m has to be the mass which is undertaken by one spring, which is half of 0.22. That is 0.11 divided by the time period is 0.4558 square. So that's going to be 20.9 newtons per meter. That is the calculated value for K. And then the label says what? The springs are taken from a box label K equals 21 newtons per meter. Did you use whether the value of K stated on the label is correct? Yes, it is correct. Correct. You're getting 20.9 and 21 is almost the same.
The percentage difference should be no more than 10%.
Yeah, so this is very, very close. Right, guys, you can take a small break. See you in 15 minutes.
after 3 months.
Okay. Part B. Part B. The student attaches the mass to one spring and holds the other end. She sets the mass into oscillation by oscillating her hand vertically, as shown. She is vibrating her hand. The student increases the frequency at which she oscillates her hand. She keeps the amplitude of the oscillation of her hand constant. She is oscillating her hand. The 2 points between which she is oscillating is the same. The amplitude is the same, but the frequency she is increasing. Okay, the amplitude is the same. That's what the question says. She observes that even though she has an increased amplitude, she observes that the amplitude of oscillation of the mass increases to maximum and then decreases. What is this? What is this phenomenon? Huh? What sense? Resonance. Resonance. So how do you explain it? At a particular frequency, the natural frequency of the system is equal to the driving frequency. Correct? So the energy transferred to the system is maximum. So it will vibrate at maximum amplitude, right? At a particular frequency, the energy transferred to the system at a particular frequency, the energy transferred to the system is maximum. Frequency is the energy transferred to the system is maximum. So it will vibrate with maximum amplitude. You did mention about the natural frequency, no? Wait. Can you please repeat what you have written? Maximum amplitude, full stop. This is when the driving frequency is equal. This is when the driving frequency is equal This is when the driving frequency is equal to the natural frequency of spring dash mass system. This is when what did I tell? This is when the driving frequency is equal to the natural frequency of spring mass system, spring dash mass system. Okay. The student makes the following conclusion. As the frequency is increased, the amplitude of the mass increases to a maximum, correct? So energy conservation does not apply to this situation. Definitely wrong. Energy conservation is applicable. Explain whether her conclusion is correct. Definitely wrong. Okay. So how is that? Now when you increase the frequency, okay, the energy supplied by the student is still the same. Okay. Why? Because the amplitude is the same. So the energy she is supplying is the same. But when you're increasing the frequency, the energy which is taken by the mass and the spring is increasing, its amplitude is increasing. Okay. How? The reason, there's, let's say for an example, at the beginning, student provides an energy of 100 joules per second. The spring and the mass takes 40 joules. The remaining 60 joules goes to the surrounding. Okay. So when you increase the frequency, and when still the student is supplying 100 joules per second, the mass and the spring will be taking more energy. Let's say it increases to 70 joules per second. The energy given to the surrounding will decrease 30 joules per second. Okay. So when it reaches that natural frequency matching the driving frequency moment, the maximum possible energy is absorbed by the system. The energy dissipated, the energy lost to the surrounding will decrease. But if you see the total, the energy dissipated to the surrounding plus the energy absorbed by the spring mass system, that will still be the same. Understand? So energy is conserved. Is that okay? So which means the energy absorbed by the spring mass system is increasing and the energy lost to the surrounding is decreasing. In such a way, the total energy will still be the same. Is that okay? Write the answer. Her statement is incorrect, or her conclusion is incorrect. Her conclusion is incorrect. Right? From the energy supplied by the student, a part is transferred to the mass. A part is transferred to the mass. A part is transferred to the mass. And the rest is transferred to the surrounding. And the rest is transferred to surrounding. Full stop. When the frequency is increased, when the frequency is increased, the energy transferred to the mass will increase. Energy transferred to the mass will increase. And the energy transferred to the surrounding will decrease. Energy transferred to the surrounding will decrease. Full stop. When the amplitude is maximum, when the amplitude is maximum, energy transfer to the surrounding will be minimum. When the amplitude is maximum, energy transfer to the surrounding will be minimum. Yeah, that's enough. Okay, the next one, question 5, page 7. Can you? What is your time period? 12.4. I'm getting 12.8. You got 12. 12.7. Okay.
So I took the time period for 13 minutes.
13 waves. That is also good. I took the time period for 6 waves because I started here. Obviously, I started from this point. I felt like it cuts the 0 line here when the time is 0.2 days. And I took again somewhere here, if you see, after 6 complete cycles, Also it is at 0. Exactly after 6 complete cycles, it was oh no, it was 3.3. Time is 3.3. Wait, then I have to make a correction. 6 waves take a time of 0.2 to 3.3 means 3.1. 3.1 multiplied by 24 hours is 74.4 hours. 4.4 divided by 6 is 12.4. I'm getting 12.4. 12.9, that's a lot. 12.4, anything around that, anyone?
So I didn't average or anything, I just 2 points from one complete oscillation and I found that.
What is the time according to that?
So I did only the first one, only for the first one.
Okay, then you took it as 0.5.
Because I took it hours, I used to scale 2 hours, and I got good.
12.5. What about you? You got 12.9. How? 13 waves. And what are the time taken? 7 days. How can it be 7? No. No, not 6.9. It has to be 6.7. From the beginning also 0.2 gone. No? What is the time period? Okay. Oh. In hours? So the time period is 12.4 hours. Okay. What is your final answer? Okay. That's okay. Yeah. Anything around 12.4 should be the answer, I guess. Plus or minus a bit. In that market scheme, there will be definitely a range. There will be a range given, not a particular value. I don't know what paper this belongs to. Please check and see. There should be a range. Okay. Due to the shape of the bay, now the question is, due to gravitational attraction of the moon, the water level of the ocean rises and falls, producing tides. The Bay of Fundy in Canada has one of the highest tides in the world. The graph shows how the water level in one location in the bay varied with over a time period of 7 days. On the time period in hours done. Due to the shape of the Bay of Fundy, the natural period of oscillation of water in the bay is between 12 to 13 hours. That is the natural time period. But here it's 12.8 hours we calculated. Okay. Explain why unusually high tides are observed in the bay. Can you give a beautiful answer to get all 3 marks?
So it happens when the waves can absorb all of the energy.
Most of the energy.
Sorry, most maximum amount of energy supplied by the
Yeah.
moon.
Okay.
So then, because that the amplitude will be maximum, so then energy will be maximum. So then the speed there will also be.
No, you didn't mention about the natural frequency story.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You have to mention, because the natural time period is 12 to 13 hours, means between 12 and 13 something. No. So natural time period is approximately equal to the driven time period. So driving frequency is equal to the natural frequency. No? So the energy transferred to the waves will be maximum. So it will vibrate with the maximum amplitude. So write the answer. Natural time period or the natural frequency. The natural frequency of vibration of water, oscillation of water. The natural frequency of oscillation of water is approximately equal to the driving frequency. Full stop. So the energy transfer to the water is maximum. And the amplitude will be maximum. Or the amplitude of the waves will be maximum. Okay, right. So that was question 5. Guys, complete everything up to sixteenth. I think there may be another 1, 2, around 4 questions I think remaining to be done for you to complete up to the 16th one, and we are done with oscillations. Next week we will be starting the last topic, which is astrophysics and cosmology. Okay, so that's it for the day. Have a nice week ahead, and those who are not doing Unit 4 papers, at least start doing it now. Minimum a paper a week, minimum. Bye, see you tomorrow. Which one? Yeah, so that is also homework. So basically up to 16 complete everything.